Meanwhile, a quiet Howe neighborhood was busy with law enforcement this afternoon during a 2-hour standoff.
KXI 12's Taylor Brooks was there as that unfolded.
A call just before 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning to the Grayson County Sheriff's Office.
In reference to an individual who had made some reported threats towards some other people and had displayed a firearm in that situation.
The Sheriff's Office says 29-year-old Alexander Eisenhower threatened 2 fiber optic workers with a gun near his home on Lopez Drive. Investigators say shots were fired, but there were no reports of injuries.
It was a threat to an individual nearby, not at the residence, not a residential member, but just a situation that developed because there were people nearby the home.
When deputies arrived, investigators say Eisenhower refused to come out.
Ultimately, an arrest warrant was obtained based on the evidence at the scene.
Deputies then set up a staging area at Howe High School.
We just had to have a location where we could consolidate all of our entities, make sure we had everything ready, and then move down to this situation here.
Soon after, a large law enforcement presence, including the Special Response Team, deputies, and the Howe Fire Department, moved in on Lopez Drive. Residents I spoke to tell me that this is normally a quiet neighborhood. They were shocked when they saw the large law enforcement presence here for about 2 hours on Wednesday. Deputies say they first tried to negotiate, hoping Eisenhower would come out voluntarily.
But ultimately, there was a movement towards going inside of the residence.
He was then taken into custody without incident and is now in the Grayson County Jail for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
We're really appreciative of just the cooperation of the neighborhood, making sure to stay clear and allowing us a place to operate.
In Howe, Taylor Brooks, KXI 12.